The heart hadn't been completely punctured, but such a wound was impossible to heal before the earth went online. It is useless. He is just a reserve player and his physical fitness isn't as strong as an official player. The electric man stabbed very deeply. Even if it was me, I can only wait for death. Only a physique like Jack can survive this type of injury. A little fat youth cried out, what should I do? Lu Chen, will Lu Chen die? The foreign woman kept acting to stop the bleeding and didn't answer. Once the chest was cleaned of most of the blood, she could finally see the wound. The foreign woman immediately said, Tang Xiao, the needle. Tang Xiao set a medical suture needle on fire for 2 seconds before handing it over. The foreign woman immediately began to stitch up the wound in the boy's heart. Her eyes were focused and the needle was moving extremely fast. However, the thin boy's breathing was becoming lighter and lighter, his face gradually widening. Under the guidance of Jack, Tang Mo and Luo Fengcheng arrived at the second floor of the underground parking lot. Jack said, the boy's injury is really heavy. He isn't an official player and his physical fitness isn't good. I managed to carry him back to base and Liz is stopping the bleeding. Liz was a medical doctor studying at Fudan University. Our base also has some basic medical equipment. But Liz says that it is useless. The electric man almost dug out the heart. Tang Mo quickened his pace. How long has he been injured? Jack replied. From the moment I carried him to the present, it is almost 40 minutes. I came as quickly as I could from the west. Jack's strength was unquestionable. He would definitely run as quickly as possible without affecting the injured. The three people finally arrived at the temporary operating room at attack space. They had just entered when they heard a curse. Shit. The tall blonde pressed her hands on Lu Chen's chest and pressed down hard. Tang Xiao was wiping Liz's sweat while the chubby youth was already crying. On the operating table, a tall and thin boy was turning blue. He lay quietly as the blonde female doctor gave him heart resuscitation. However, he never recovered his breath. Tang Mo quickly stepped forward, pushing Tang Xiao and Liz out of the way. The chubby youth looked up and cried out, Brother Mo. The three of them all looked at him with astonishment. Tang Mo had no time to explain and took out a tear-shaped gem from his pocket. He pressed the gem to Lu Chen's chest and blood slowly infused into the gem. A trace of warm light emerged from the earthworm's tear and penetrated Lu Chen's chest. Liz reacted at once and turned to look at Luo Fengcheng. Luo Fengcheng nodded and made a gesture to not interfere. He walked to Tang Mo's side and watched the earthworm's tear in Tang Mo's hand. Snap. There was a fine crack on the earthworm's tears and Lu Chen's face gradually became rosy. He suddenly coughed hard and Tang Mo sighed, putting the tear back in his pocket. The chubby boy jumped up excitedly. Lu Chen. Liz and Tang Xiao also went to check on the situation of the thin boy. Tang Mo gave his position to them and turned to Luo Fengcheng. It is a prop. I participated in an instance a few days ago and obtained it. It can repair serious injuries but I can only use it 2 times. For Tang Mo, the earthworm's tear was precious but not the most important prop. Rather than let Luo Fengcheng guess something by himself, it was better for Tang Mo to take the initiative and explain. However, it was a half-truth and still hid some strength. Luo Fengcheng smiled. You healed him. The two people looked at each other and Tang Mo slowly smiled. The relationship between Tang Mo and Luo Fengcheng was very strange. They weren't enemies but they definitely weren't friends. In this world, Luo Fengcheng wasn't alone. He also represented the entire attack organization and always had to think about attack. Tang Mo didn't intend to join such an organization. He needed companions but he didn't want so many companions. Nor did he need so many to attack the tower. After actually participating in the tower attack game, he understood how terrible this game was. Tang Mo would strive to improve his own strength and he wouldn't be passive if he encountered an incident. But he wouldn't deliberately die. If he couldn't attack the tower then he wouldn't attack the tower. This was the life standard that Tang Mo recently established. The earthworm's tear had temporarily saved Lu Chen's life but his injury was too heavy. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep. The little fatty Zhao Xiang wiped his tears and walked to Tang Mo. Tang Mo gave him a look. He nodded and followed Tang Mo out of the operating room. Luo Fengcheng gave them some private time to talk. Tang Mo led the little fatty to a corner of the parking lot. After confirming there was no one around, he asked, how are Chen Shanshan and the others? The little fatty had been crying for too long and now his voice was a bit hoarse. Brother, we left school the day after you did. I went with Lu Chen while Shanshan was with Fifei. We have long been separated. Lu Chen wanted to go home and check. He is a boarding student and his family is in Jiading district. In any case, my parents are gone so I went with him. Tang Mo was slightly relieved after hearing Chen Shanshan was in no danger. The little fatty continued. We met the murderer last night. His ability was very strong, the strongest I have ever seen. Every part of his body can emit lightning and the nails and needles I had were useless against him. Lu Chen and I escaped all night but we didn't expect him to find us at noon today. Fortunately, the foreign uncle passed by and saved us, otherwise we would have died. Tang Mo spoke. He is called Jack. He didn't happen to pass by. He was looking for the man hunting you. Tang Mo thought for a moment. I heard from Luo Fengcheng about this stowaways organization, they are recently very famous in Shanghai and came from the west. You went west to Jiading district so you must have heard about it. How did you still run to the west? The little fatty made a bitter expression. When we left school, Shanshan said that we are children. If there are bad people, they would definitely go after us. So no matter what, don't make contact with the crowd and be careful. Lu Chen and I listened to her and didn't communicate with other people. By the time we heard about the killings in the west, it was already too late. Brother Mo, a lot of people ran away but we were running in the rear. Tang Mo suddenly realized. It was really self-defeating. Chen Chinchen's words weren't unreasonable. Considering the little fatty's mind, it was better for him not to get in contact with people. For example, the little fatty still hadn't discovered that Tang Mo had become Momo and kept shouting Brother Mo. As long as there were no accidents, Chen Chinchen's idea was very appropriate. However, there were murderers. The small fatty didn't contact other people and didn't get the news, delaying his escape time. Tang Mo thought about something else. You can move knives. Brother Mo, how did you know? I heard Jack say it. He said that when he arrived, he saw you quickly move a knife and cut the arm of the stowaway. The little fatty pointed his right hand at the ground. Tang Mo looked in the direction of his finger. He saw a big piece of broken rock rise from the ground. It shook in the air like a drunkard, unable to find a direction. Tang Mo stared intently. Once the stone was 1 meter in front of him, Tang Mo's eyes narrowed. The stone flew towards him in the blink of an eye. Bang! The stone fell to the ground and the little fatty gasped, raising his hand to wipe at the sweat on his forehead. His fingers trembled slightly as he said, approximately 3 days ago, I found that I can slightly move some heavier things. But I still can't do as much as when I move nails and needles. For example, I can make this big stone fly very fast within 1 meter. If it is too far then I can't do it. In addition, the energy consumption is very large and I can't reuse it for a short time. Tang Mo nodded approvingly. It is a very powerful ability. Perhaps later it will become stronger. The little fatty scratched his head. Tang Mo wasn't comforting him. He really felt that this ability was very powerful. The little fatty's ability was strong in 2 points. One was the element of surprise. Just like right now, Tang Mo hadn't expected that the stone would move in front of him so quickly. If it was a knife, it might have stabbed him between the eyebrows. It wouldn't kill him but he would be seriously injured. On the other hand, the little fatty's ability was becoming stronger. Since the earth came online, Tang Mo had basically been acting alone. He didn't have a companion and didn't know if other people's abilities would become stronger. But the little fatty's ability had obviously become stronger and still had room for development. Tang Mo asked a few more questions before letting the little fatty go back to the operating room to find his friend. He walked along to Luo Fengchen's office, his head bowed as he thought. As he reached the middle of the second floor underground parking lot, Tang Mo looked at the monitors around him. The switch lights indicated that all the cameras were off. However, Tang Mo bent over to grab a small pebble and broke all the cameras. After the earth went online, humans lost power and couldn't create new electricity. The current electricity used by attack was from a small generator left by the mall itself. They used it very frugally and generally didn't use it at night. For example, Liz hadn't used electricity for the Thin Boy's operation. First, there were no sterile conditions so everything was simple. Second, his injury wasn't something that could be cured with modern medical equipment. After identifying that no one was around, Tang Mo headed to a van and opened the door to the back seat. He took out his abilities book and turned it to the front page. Ability, don't give money for eating owner, Tang Mo type, special type function, collecting abilities. Note, everyone, Tang Mo carefully read the text on the first page 3 times before turning to the second page. Ability, I have a worse spiritual field than a protagonist owner, Jian Sankan, stowaway. Grade, level 2. Can store 2 types of inanimate objects limit, only objects of the same type can be stored and no bodies can be stored. Note, Jian Sankan doesn't know, Tang Mo's gaze stayed on the level and restriction lines. After reading it for a long time, he turned to the 3rd and 4th pages. He read all 11 pages of the abilities book before turning back to the first page and looking at his ability. There are no levels or restrictions, Tang Mo frowned. Zhao Xiang's ability showed an obvious improvement. Tang Mo's first thought was the ability level. Of the 10 abilities he collected, only Chen Qinshan's ability was level 3. The rest were level 1 and 2. Tang Mo didn't know what the little fatty's ability was like but he guessed that the level of the ability must have increased. If the ability could be improved then it explained how players could attack all 7 floors of the Black Tower in the future. The first floor of the Black Tower was so difficult. If the player's level couldn't be improved, they wouldn't be able to cope with the more terrible tower games. But my ability has no level or restrictions. Tang Mo's finger rubbed on the words don't give money for eating. There are still restrictions. For example, killing people can get abilities. Obtaining things from others without giving money can also give me abilities. But there are limitations. The fact that I didn't get little fatty's ability should be related to this restriction. Tang Mo's brain worked quickly. He recalled every detail from when he was in the middle school and trying to get the little fatty's abilities. It is because he didn't want to give me the cookies. Tang Mo rejected it as soon as he expressed the idea. It can't be that simple. Tang Mo couldn't say why but he felt it wasn't so simple. In order to verify his thoughts, he went back to the operating room and found the little fatty sleeping by the bed. He gently woke the boy up. Who, brother Mo. The little fatty rubbed his eyes wearily. Tang Mo led the little fatty out of the operating room and said, can you give me the knife you used to cut that man's arm? I want to see if I can find something new. For example, why do the stowaways want to eat people's hearts? The little fatty didn't even think about it. He quickly took out the knife from his belt and passed it to Tang Mo. Tang Mo stared at him. Do you want to give me this knife? The little fatty made a strange expression. Why wouldn't I want to give it to you? It is a knife. Brother Mo, take it. Tang Mo took the knife and the little fatty ran back to the operating room. Tang Mo found a hidden place to take out his abilities book and opened it to the 12th page. As expected, it was blank. The little fatty's ability didn't appear. Tang Mo closed the book and threw it into the air with an expressionless face. Sure enough, this damn book deliberately tossed urine at him every time. There was no way the restriction would be so simple. He still needed to find out more about his abilities. Tang Mo found Luo Fengcheng. Luo Fengcheng didn't ask why he was gone for so long. He just handed over a folder. We know that there are 7 stowaways who came from Suzhou, at least 7. 8 days ago, 2 official players fled from Suzhou to Shanghai and news of the stowaways organization came from their mouths. According to them, there are 10 stowaways and at least 1,000 players have been murdered in Suzhou. Tang Mo stopped his action of opening the folder and looked up. 10 people killed 1,000. The official players and stowaways are stronger than the reserve players. In addition, abilities range from strong to weak. Luo Fengcheng continued his explanation. These 10 people are at the top of the food chain. Most of the people they killed were reserve players. At the beginning, it was sneak attacks at night. Then they started to kill in the daytime. They acted as a group until recently and now they are often separated. And Mo, Luo Fengcheng didn't call out Tang Mo's name. He coughed and said, even now, most people don't have the courage to kill. Tang Mo understood this truth. The earth went online and more than 6 billion people disappeared at once. The horror of the Black Tower hung over the head of every human. It had only been 1 month. The peaceful life from 1 month ago was still vivid. Most people didn't dare kill people. They would kill their enemies, but when faced with the choice to kill, there would inevitably be some hesitation. Even if you were stronger than the opponent could use this hesitation to kill you. The 10 stowaways killed people without blinking and ate their hearts. This type of psychology, almost all players couldn't compete with it and would die. Tang Mo said, in the beginning, it was a sneak attack. Later, they dared to openly kill people. They are getting stronger. The two people looked at each other and agreed. Eating people can increase their strength. Tang Mo opened the folder given by Luo Fengcheng and looked at the abilities of these 7 people. The attack group were the elites. Everyone was strong, but they only had 20 people. Most of the people who saw the stowaways died. Luo Fengcheng took a long time before managing to collect information on 3 stowaways. The first man is called the Electric Man. He is the one who chased the 2 children. Luo Fengcheng explained. His real name isn't known and his ability involves lightning, so I call him the Electric Man. His electricity is so strong that he once destroyed a 5-story residential building. The cooldown of his ability is unknown. When he fought Jack, the shortest interval he used it was 32 seconds. After a pause, he added, I specifically told Jack to remember the timing so 32 seconds is accurate. Tang Mo looked at the second person. Black Belt. The name was strange, so Tang Mo looked at his ability. After seeing his ability, Tang Mo was even more stunned. Luo Fengcheng nodded. Yes, this Black Belt's ability is unknown. Every time he appears, he has a stowaway as a bodyguard and he uses a gun. His eyes are wrapped in a black silk ribbon, so I called him Black Belt. But he isn't blind. Despite the thick black cloth, he could still walk normally. I suspect that his ability isn't offensive and is related to his eyes. It was a very strange ability. Tang Mo looked at the third person. Luo Fengcheng said, this person is the simplest. His nickname is Speed. His ability is to move fast, very fast. Tang Mo asked, how fast? Luo Fengcheng picked up a glass of water from the table. Tang Mo hadn't reacted when Luo Fengcheng quickly raised his right hand and smashed the cup against the wall. There was a bang as the ceramic cup shattered into countless small pieces and landed on the ground. Luo Fengcheng turned. His speed is probably this fast. Tang Mo fell into deep thought. Out of these 3 men, apart from the unknown Black Belt, the other 2 abilities were terrible. If there were more terrible people among the remaining 4, then these 7 powerful were absolutely dangerous and formidable enemies. The next morning, Tang Xiao led the little fatty to find Tang Mo. The young woman in black had a cold expression as she said, he said he wants to tell you something. Tang Mo looked at Tang Xiao, who quietly turned and left. Zhao Xiong stepped forward and said, Brother Mo, I think I want to join the attack organization. Tang Mo didn't object. He just asked, why? The little fatty looked serious. My ability isn't strong enough to protect me and my friends. My family is gone. Brother Mo, you don't know this, but when I left the school, I swore an oath. I want to protect all of my remaining friends, including Lu Chen, Shan Shan, and you. Tang Mo didn't think of this. He looked at the little fatty who was staring at him seriously. If Uncle Jack hadn't come this time, Lu Chen would definitely be dead and I might have died. I thought I could grow up to protect everyone, but it seems the road is too difficult. Therefore, I want to join attack. Like them, I will constantly challenge instances and improve my strength to attack the Black Tower. The little fatty added. After I enter attack, they can teach me fighting skills and some tricks to play games. It is quite good. Tang Mo didn't want the little fatty to go through such a difficult and dangerous road. But looking at the firm expression on the little fatty's face, he didn't say any words of opposition. This was ultimate another's path. The little fatty was 16 years old and had his own judgment. After saying these, the little fatty added, oh yes, I almost forgot to say something. Brother Mo, I want to find Shan Shan. This time something big happy. I think I should tell her to be careful of these people and to not worry about me and Lu Chen. This matter was more shocking than hearing that the little fatty wanted to join attack. You have a way to contact Chen Shan Shan. The little fatty first shook his head and then nodded. When we left school, Shan Shan said that phones and the internet can't be used anymore. Once we separate, it will be difficult to contact each other in the future. She said that if any of us wants to get in touch, we should go back to the school and shove a note under the podium of class 5. As long as people go back and see the note, we can find each other. Shan Shan was a student of class 5. The little girl had thought very carefully and even had a location to hide things. But Shan Shan should have already arrived in the countryside. The stowaways matter has spread through Shanghai, so they should be hiding. They won't go back to the school to read the note. But I still want to leave a message for her. If she doesn't go to the country, I hope she will come to us. It will be safer. In fact, the countryside wasn't safe. Yesterday, Tang Mo heard Luo Fengcheng say that the stowaways had slaughtered a village near Suzhou. Tang Mo said, no, she will go back. The little fatty asked, why? You are Chen Qinshan's friend and want the strength to protect her. It is the same, you are her friend as well. Things couldn't be delayed. Tang Mo wrote a letter and prepared to go to Shivei Middle School. The middle school was in the Jing'an district while attack space was in the Pudong New area. With Tang Mo's current strength, he would be able to come back in the evening. Originally, the little fatty planned to go with him, but Tang Mo said, the stowaways know you. It isn't just you but everyone in the attack organization. Apart from Luo Fengcheng, who never went out. In their eyes, I am just an ordinary person living in this mall, a reserve player. There are a lot of players in this mall. Recently, many have left, but there are still more than 80 people. If I go out alone, I will be a small target and it is likely that they won't pay attention to me at all. Tang Mo calmly said, no one knows if the stowaways have an arrangement outside the mall, waiting for you or any attack members. The little fatty listened to this and didn't follow. He drew a rough map of the school, telling Tang Mo where class 5 was and how to put the letter. At noon, Tang Mo grabbed a white sportswear outfit from a big-name sportswear store on the second floor of the mall, deliberately wrinkled it and put it on. He wore a black sports belt, running shoes, and walked out the door of the mall. On the outside, he looked like a 19-year-old college freshman. Young and handsome, he wore sportswear and was ready to go exercise. Tang Mo's expression was very relaxed. When he was walking, he wasn't fast or slow and his footsteps were slightly frivolous. He left the mall and headed to a nearby factory area. According to what Tang Mo heard from Jack, there were several entrances to S-type instances in this factory area. It wasn't just members of the organization. Other players in the vicinity would often come here to enter the S-type instance and challenge the missions and monsters inside. Tang Mo circled 3 intersections and finally walked into a factory. There was the entrance to a S-type instance in this factory. Normal people would think he was going to challenge the instance. Tang Mo waited for half an hour before leaving the factory from the back door and going to Pudong. Along the way, he looked for remote paths, dark alleys, and walked very fast. It was 3 in the afternoon when he walked to Jing'an district. Tang Mo found the path to Shive Middle School using his memory. His right hand touched the short iron fence of the school gate and jumped into the school. He used the map drawn by the little fatty and found the first teaching building. Before Chen Shenshan left, she closed all the security doors on the first floor of the teaching building. That way, if other people entered the school, whether they were enemies or friends, she would find out when returning to the school and could be prepared. Tang Mo used his palm to break the lock and pushed open the door. When he walked up the first floor staircase, he turned and gently closed the door. On the second floor, he found class 5. Tang Mo put the letter into the dark space below the podium and turned away. A young and handsome man wearing white sportswear. Tang Mo walked lightly down the stairs and towards the security door. He looked down at the position of the anti-theft door lock and then the bag he was carrying. There was silence on the campus. Only the wind blowing across the grounds and the stones rolling could be heard. Tang Mo placed his hand into his bag, as if to pull out something. In the empty teaching building, he stood alone on the first floor. He didn't push open the security door. He just stood in front of it, pulling something out from his bag. Tang Mo didn't seem to find it as he searched his bag for a long time. A minute later, he lowered his head and looked into his backpack, seemingly searching for something. The moment his head lowered, he suddenly opened a pink umbrella, blocking the big knife slamming down towards Tang Mo's head. The man with the knife was stunned for a moment. He hurriedly jumped onto the staircase's handrail before jumping. His body appeared 5 meters away. Transformation. Once the last word was spat out gently, Tang Mo's wrist moved and the small parasol opened on his shoulder. He looked up at the knife man standing on the second floor stairs. The man was 1.7 meters tall and had a knife scar 9 centimeters long that ran from the corner of the eye to the chin. He wore a black vest and held a long machete in his right hand. He was smiling as he looked at Tang Mo. How did you know I was here? Tang Mo looked at him coldly, fingers clasped on the handle of the small parasol. Intuition. The scarred man laughed. I don't believe in things like intuition. Tang Mo asked, why did you follow me? He had waited 30 minutes in the factory in order to prevent tracking. Following you, the scarred man looked at Tang Mo's body before finally his face. All of a sudden, his smile disappeared. I really hate that little white face. I can't kill him, so I will kill you. The moment his words ended, the figure of the scarred man disappeared from the stairwell. Tang Mo waved Grandmother Wolf's small parasol and blocked the left side of his body. The man's figure suddenly appeared on his left and the knife collided with the hard surface of the umbrella, causing sparks to fly from the metal collision. The other party hadn't expected Tang Mo to know where he was. After the knife was blocked, his eyes became more violent and he attacked faster. The shadow of the knife was dense and endless. Tang Mo found that resistance was increasingly difficult. He had guessed who this man was. This was speed among the 7 stowaways. The man was faster than what Luo Fengcheng said. Perhaps it was because after attack gained his information, he ate a player's heart and his ability improved. Tang Mo's physical fitness was strengthened and his dynamic vision had reached a fearful level. However, he still couldn't see the figure of the knife man and increasingly relied on the sound of wind to judge the man's next move. Just now, Tang Mo said that he discovered the man with his instincts and he hadn't lied. But it wasn't accurate either. He felt as if someone was following him but no matter how he looked, he couldn't find anyone. If it was ordinary tracking, Tang Mo wouldn't have sensed it multiple times. In today's world, there were indeed some players who would follow and rob players of their resources. But the man had followed him all the way to the teaching building. When Tang Mo closed the security door of the teaching building, he quietly pulled out his own hair and placed it in the door. Once he finished putting the letter, his hair had fallen to the ground. Tang Mo couldn't be sure where the person who followed him was but there was a 90% possibility that they were inside the teaching building and watching him. Therefore, he pretended to look for something in his bag. In fact, he was already holding Grandmother Wolf's small parasol and whispered the spell to use it. The scarred man saw Tang Mo bow his head to take something out and felt this was a good time for a sneak attack. Tang Mo opened the small parasol to block the attack and found the tracker. The scarred man used the narrow terrain of the staircase to constantly change positions, stepping on the wall and rushed at Tang Mo from all angles. Tang Mo's small parasol never closed. He could only keep it open as a shield. The scarred man didn't give him any time to breathe. His knife moved in the complete opposite direction and Tang Mo had no time to shift the small parasol. Tang Mo's eyes narrowed and a large stone appeared in front of Tang Mo, blocking the knife. The scarred man held his knife and suddenly understood. This power is the same as the little fatty yesterday. You are actually from attack. Tang Mo ignored him, found the opportunity to close the parasol and aimed the tip at the scarred man. The tip of the small parasol looked like ordinary plastic. It was round and not sharp at all. The scarred man didn't think much of it and slowly moved sideways to avoid it. He didn't expect the tip of the umbrella to move down his arm, cutting it and causing bleeding. The scarred man didn't dare to be careless. He screamed with anger, moved his right foot and disappeared onto the stairs again. Tang Mo and the scarred man acted on the stairs for a long time, the big knife and small parasol colliding again and again. Grandmother Wolf's small parasol was exactly as described. The surface was extremely hard and the knife couldn't pierce it. Meanwhile, the tip had strong attacking power. If Tang Mo used extreme force, he could stab through the wall. But the labor of division was clear. The umbrella's surface couldn't be used to attack and the tip couldn't be used for defense. It was unlike the big match which could be both offensive and defensive. If the big match hit the knife then the knife would be broken. The scarred man gradually got the upper hand. Tang Mo wasn't a martial artist and couldn't catch up with his speed. He could only blindly resist. The knife slashed across Tang Mo's shoulder. Tang Mo made a humming sound and moved the umbrella. The scarred man quickly escaped, moving from the top of the stairs to the security door instantaneously. The scarred man stood in front of the security door at the bottom of the stairs while Tang Mo stood on the platform between the first and second floors. Tang Mo touched the wound on his shoulder and his hand became wet with blood. The wound was slowly healing but blood would flow for at least another minute. The scarred man sneered and didn't talk nonsense. He raised his knife and rushed towards Tang Mo. Tang Mo threw his small parasol towards the scarred man. The scarred man made a ridiculing expression and easily avoided the attack of the small parasol. He looked up at Tang Mo, only to see Tang Mo place his hands on his hips and open his mouth. Return my grandfather. The scarred man was forced to a corner. He could rush towards Tang Mo or turn to the security door and leave. When Tang Mo shouted this sentence, the man felt alarm. Something felt wrong and he wanted to run away. But as he tried to push open the security door, he found the small parasol jammed in the door lock position, firmly keeping the door closed. The umbrella was originally aiming for this door, not him. Uneasiness rose to the max in the scarred man's heart and he roared at Tang Mo, I will slice you up. The next second, a hot fire burst from Tang Mo's mouth. The flames filled the entire staircase and the scarred man's voice and body was engulfed in the flames. Among the blazing yellow flames, a black figure walked painfully towards Tang Mo. He groaned and his speed became slower and slower. Finally, he fell on the sixth step and struggled to climb up out of the flame-covered area. However, he could no longer move. Big Goblin, return my grandfather ability emitted 800 degrees Celsius flames for 30 seconds. 30 seconds later, a charred human-like object was on the ground, not moving. Tang Mo stopped blowing out the hot flames and stepped towards the burnt body of the scarred man. Just as he walked over, a knife suddenly appeared in the scarred man's right hand. The man used all his strength to stab up at Tang Mo. Tang Mo was on guard. A giant match appeared in his hand and smashed against the man's wrist. There was a loud sound and the burnt body part broke into two parts, landing on the ground. The scarred man's body was black, only his eyes were white. He opened his mouth and stared at Tang Mo, uttering the last sentence of his life. Why, you have 3 abilities. The first ability come and hit me, used a stone to block the knife. The second ability Goblin, return my grandfather burned the man who had no way to escape. The third ability I have a worse spiritual field than a protagonist pulled the big match out of thin air and finally destroyed the scarred man's last hope. Tang Mo looked at the desperate and in pain man and didn't answer. He just raised the big match and directly smashed the man in the skull. This year, who would pick a just and honorable duel? Tang Mo no longer looked at the body of the scarred man. He went to the security door and pulled out the small parasol. His bag had been burned along with the scarred man. Fortunately, he hadn't brought anything in it apart from the small parasol. Tang Mo took the small parasol and left the school. At the same time, 100 kilometers away in Suzhou, a black off-road vehicle left the Suzhou toll station exist of the Beijing-Shanghai Expressway and slowly entered Suzhou. The city was quiet. The black-haired man sat in the driver's seat and drove with one hand, seemingly careless as his sharp eyes glanced around the empty city. He drove to the downtown commercial street, got off his car and found a bookstore, grabbing a map of Suzhou to Shanghai. After doing all of this, he opened the door and sat in the driver's seat. He glanced at the map before placing it down on the passenger's seat. The atmosphere of the car was quiet. Then there was silver flash as a dagger stabbed from behind the man in black, piercing through the cushion of the driver's seat towards the back of the man's neck. The sharp tip of the knife got closer and closer to skin. The moment it was about to stab through, there was the sound of a metallic impact. The bald man who initiated the surprise attack was shocked. He saw that the soft skin that the dagger had aimed for had suddenly turned into silver steel. The bald man sighed and waved his right hand. Suddenly, there were countless sharp weapons in his hand. He aimed these weapons at the man in black. The latter didn't move, just raising one hand. The warm sunset came in through the front window of the car, showing the hand that had turned into a black triangular cone-shaped weapon. The man in black waved his arm and the dozens of knives smashed through the window out onto the road. The bald man's face was horrified and he turned to open the door. But just as his hand touched the door handle, a cold hand grabbed his neck. He turned his head stiffly and looked at the other person. Fu Wenduo looked indifferently at him. His fingers moved and there was a sharp sound as the bald man's head was twisted off his shoulders. Fu Wenduo threw the body of the sneak attacker onto the road. He stood in the once prosperous commercial street and looked at the setting sun. This was Suzhou. Suzhou was a bit wrong. The author has something to say. Old Fu, my wife killed the bad guy in Shanghai. I solved the problem in Suzhou. Perfect China's good husband. Tang Tang, I heard that your ability seems to be turning your body to metal. Can every part of your body be turned to metal? Number can't bear it. Number I want to apply for a change. Number chapter end.